Hear me loud and hear me clear. Buildings don't lead anybody to Christ. Buildings don't change the community. Buildings don't redeem souls. Only the power of the Holy Spirit, only the atoning power of Jesus Christ creates a new heart, gives us a new life, and gives us hope. And Jesus can do anything with or without a building. I give you that. But when you are in a building, that building does represent you, and in a sense to the unchurched community, it represents our Savior because they identify us with Him with that place. And so you need to make sure it's at least clean and looks good. Guys, if you're revitalizing, replanting the church, don't start with the pews. There's a lot of emotional attachment to the pews. They may even have plaques on the pews. They may people donated the pews. My grandmother sat in that pew. I mean, don't go there first, all right? Get there eventually, but don't go there first. So that's one. But here are three things that you need to go to first in your church building. First, the outside, the signage. What does your sign look like? Is it good? Is it well written? Does it look like it's contemporary, like it was written in the last decade? Can you see it? Are the shrubs and the bushes away from it? I mean, if you've got writing on your sign that you can't see unless you walk up to it, it's probably pointless. You have big font that people can see when they drive by. You have to have your web address on the sign and maybe your other social media like your Twitter or Instagram site. If you don't have that, you need to, because that's how people will check you out. That's the first place they're going to look to check you out. So your sign outside needs to look fresh and clean and new, like something new has happened here. It needs to look welcoming and inviting. It needs to be well lit if you can do that. You know, it's like we are at Linwood. We really don't have the money to have a really cool well lit sign. But if you can do a well lit sign, that's great, just so it can be seen. And certainly at least have your service time and your website on there. That's the two biggest things. Whether you have the pastor's name, I mean, an unchurched person doesn't care that Mark Clifton's the pastor, although if you look at Linwood, they do have my name on there. But nonetheless, what they really want to know is what time is church and what's your website. Those are the two things. Once they go to the website, they can find out who the pastor is, who the staff is, and all that stuff. So anyhow, your sign. Number one, take a look at your sign. Spend some money, invest in your sign, and just even a new sign kind of says to the community something new is happening here. One of the worst things you can do is have a sign that's got paint peeling on it, that looks old, looks neglected, really bad. And if you got one of those signs where the pastor's name is hanging on something on a chain below, take that off, because that just looks like, he's here today, gone tomorrow. You better not to have any pastor's name on there. I saw a church one time that when the pastor left, they just took duct tape and duct taped over his name. It's true. You can't make this stuff up. Anyway, so signage. Number two, restrooms. Yes, your restrooms make sure you give them attention. Now, that's an expensive remodel. So I'm not necessarily suggesting you've got to spend $30,000 and remodel your restrooms, but you got to clean them. You need to paint them. You need to make sure that they look not frightening. Sometimes in churches, we're there all the time. I mean, we've been going there for 30 years. I was with a guy last night who went to a church for 42 years. I mean, it's not that unusual. Well, you get used to it. It doesn't seem that off-putting to you. But someone new walks in there, especially if they have a child and they're going to take the child to the restroom, and if it looks really claustrophobic, if it looks really outdated, if the equipment looks like it might not function well, if there's not good soap and towels every place, if there's not good lighting in there, man, just clean it up, paint it, get some good lights, get some good soap and some towels. And then if you need to, and I did this at Warnell Road Baptist Church because we didn't have the money to upgrade our restrooms for a long time, and they looked like from the 1930s. I mean, they were pretty bad. So we had some signs made we put in the restrooms that says, hey, we know these restrooms don't look great, but we're trying to spend our money on the community and other things right now, but so please forgive us. And it was sort of like an awareness, like, hey, we know these aren't the greatest. We'll get there eventually. Right now we have other priorities, and it helped for a while. I think many people remarked about that, So it's like, oh, they realize they need to update these, but they're doing some other things right now. But pay attention to your restrooms and make sure they're clean, make sure they're well lit, make sure they have plenty of materials that restrooms need always, and make sure they work and they function. Is there anything more embarrassing than for a visitor to come and something happened with the toilet? Let's just be honest. That's your worst nightmare. So make sure they work, make sure they function, make sure they're clean, make sure they're well marked. And make sure you've got signage where the restrooms are. I go to so many churches and preach in so many churches, and I kind of know church architecture. Basically, I know if there's a water fountain someplace, then the restroom's going to be nearby. But very seldom from the worship center do I see any kind of sign that says restroom, or from the first entrance of the door wherever visitors would come in do I see a sign that points them to the restroom. And frankly, some people have some issues, and when they go out in public, they have some issues, digestive issues, other things, and they just need to know where the restroom is, and they just feel more comfortable if they know where the restroom is. And you don't want to be you don't walk into church for the very first time you're a visitor, and the first thing you do is you ask the elderly usher, deacon there, hey, where's the restroom? I mean, that's not the first question you want to ask, but, if you've got some kind of an issue that you need to know in case something happens, you want to know. And so if there's a sign there that says restrooms this way, again, listen to me. Don't veg out on me here. I know I'm rambling. But a sign that says restrooms this way lowers their anxiety and brings them a better sense of sort of comfort. Just like having chairs rather than pews, right? They walk in, there's 500 seat pews and 50 people there. Where in the world do I sit? They walk in and there's 75, 80 chairs set up with 50 people. They can kind of figure out where they sit. So again, think like someone who's not been in your church, like a visitor, like an unchurched person. What would make them more comfortable? So make sure that you've got good signage for your restrooms and you have clear lighting and all those things. Number 3, you have outdoor signs, restrooms, and the third thing you need to make sure you take care of is your children's area. And that's often the one that gets neglected. I mean, I go to churches all the time, and they've done everything except the children's area. And you look in the children's area, and it looks like, oh my goodness, it needs attention. Old toys everywhere, and nothing's organized, and the paint's not good, and people, we'll get to it eventually. No, you get to it now. I've never seen a 2-year-old come to church by himself. Maybe it happens, but I never have. If there's a baby or a 2 or 3-year-old in the nursery or preschool, then there's a parent somewhere in the building. And so you've got to make sure that your children's areas look good. Paint them, keep them clean, keep them well lit. If you've got a solid door in your children's area, cut a window in that door so people can look in. You don't ever want children's area behind a solid door with no window for viewing, for security, for all kinds of reasons. In fact, we're talking about it at Linwood. We're going to put the camera in the children's area, the video camera, so we can have a record of that. Security and safety. So not only cleanliness in your children's area and not a whole bunch of toys, but good toys, good constructive toys, like a home living area where you have like a place where they can have the sink and the stove and the doll and the rocking chair. And then another area over here where you have blocks. I'm talking about 2 and 3-year-olds. You have a block area, and then another part of the room you have a bookshelf. You have a book area with a rug that kids can sit down. And that way your kids can go from area to area, and you can have 2 or 3 different kids going in 2 different places rather than just pile a bunch of toys in there and let them go at it, right? So, just your association, your state convention, call your state convention. Say, hey, would you send somebody out here to do an audit of our children's area? And they'll help you with all the things I just said. And you say, well, we don't have any children. Well, that's a great time to get ready for it, all right? That's because when one shows up, you're not going to have time to get ready for it. The worst thing you can do is have a new family show up with children and you haven't paid attention to your children's area. So, children's area, all right? So those are the 3, outdoor signs, restrooms, and children's area. And then pews, unless it's a historic place and the new people want to keep the pews, you need to think about letting them go. This past Sunday at Linwood, we had a lunch after church we called it Learning Linwood. Anybody who wants to know about Linwood. Now, we average about 70 in worship, and that counts children, and children count, but we average about 70 in worship. But we have 25 members. So we have basically almost 2 times as many non-members attending as members. And that's okay. That's good. That happens in a church plant. That shows growth. That's a good thing. A lot of dying churches, may have 150 members and 20 people there. We have 25 members and 70 people there. So what that means is there's a lot of folks who don't know about us. And so I would encourage you to do this too. We just had a meal after church on Sunday, invited everybody that was new to stay. And we just was an opportunity for us to just tell the story of Linwood, who we are, how you join us, what it means to be a member here, what's expected of members, and what members can expect of their pastors. It was just very brief. But here's my point. When I got done preaching, in a matter of moments, now listen to this. Listen, check this out. In a matter of moments, the chairs were put off to the side. The tables came out and were set up in the sanctuary. The chairs were brought back and put around the tables, and we were ready to have a meal. And you know what I saw? Listen to me. You know what I saw Sunday? I saw the new people who were there to hear the story of Linwood. What were they doing? They were helping move the tables and chairs. Immediately, they felt like they were involved. Now, if we just had pews, right, and we had to go down to the basement, to the fellowship hall, of course, we don't have a basement, which you think about that, being in Kansas, not having a basement, I'm not sure how smart that is. But anyway, we don't have a basement. But if we did, well, then, again, you have to go downstairs to the fellowship hall, and you might lose some people. They might decide to go on home. And secondly, you don't have a chance to sort of let those people pitch in and move the chairs around. And anybody can move chairs. Anybody can move tables. And so it was a neat experience to see the new people who weren't members yet pitching in and helping setting up tables and chairs. And I was amazed. I was like, man, 10 minutes, we're ready to eat. I mean, this was quick. The transformation of that space from a worship center to a fellowship center. And then we use it for other things. We've used it for Zumba classes. We've used it for music classes. We've had a men's retreat and played cornhole in there. You can't do that if you have pews, right? So if your building is truly meant to bless the community, you got to really think about the limitations you have when you have pews in that building. And you say, well, we have a fellowship hall. Yeah, maybe so. But there's still things you can do in that sanctuary if you didn't have pews that might be creative and helpful. All right. Well, thanks for listening. Again, the definitive answer on pews, it depends. But probably it's best not to have them. And then take care of new signs, take care of your restrooms, take care of your children's area.